It's wonderful to be back again after taking a break from Tuesday Talks. So it does look like it's 7:30 in Korea, so we will go ahead and start. And as people start jumping in to the Zoom room, and just a reminder, we are also broadcasting this live on YouTube. So welcome everybody to Tuesday Talks. We took a little break during the summer and we are back for a few more sessions this fall. I'm very excited to be here with you again. Tuesday Talks에 오신 것을 환영합니다. We are excited to come back with new panelists and new topics of conversation. And we hope as you start the new school semester that these Tuesday Talks brings great information to you and that it will help you along as you navigate the admissions process during this very unprecedented year. Today, I am very excited to be here with my colleagues from the University of California system, specifically UC Davis, UC Riverside, UC San Diego, and UC Santa Cruz. So without further ado, I am going to hand it over to them. And please don't forget that we will have a time for question and answer. Please make use of the chat boxes here. You can type in your question anytime, whether you're on YouTube or whether you're on Zoom, and we will get to your questions at the very end. All right, so I'm going to pass it on to June. Please take it away. Oh, June, it looks like you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Thank you so much. And annyeonghaseyo to Korea, and good morning to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us at the UC special event today. And I'm Jun Wang, and I'm the Assistant Provost for International Recruitment at UC Riverside. And I'm very proud to begin our presentation today by introducing our wonderful University of California system. As you can see from this beautiful map of the sunshine golden state of California, we at the UC represent the largest public research university system, not just in California, but probably in the world. And we have 10 campuses spreading along the map, 5 in the Northern California region and 5 in the Southern California region. All of our campuses from the north to the south, and you can see from the furthest up there in the nearby our capital state is the UC Davis, who is also joining us tonight. And we have UC Berkeley, who is the founding and the first campus, UC Santa Cruz, very beautifully located next to the beach. And we have the newest one, which is UC Merced in the Inland Valley. And then we have Santa Barbara, UCLA, UC Irvine, all located along the coast in the Southern California. But then we also have UC San Diego, again, beautifully located next to the beach. And the last is where I'm from, is UC Riverside, is the most inland and the tallest by altitude. So we are very glad to jointly present our 10 UC campuses to you. A little bit background about UC is we are not just the largest public research university system, we are also largest in terms of the number of students. We have over 280,000 students and over 220,000 faculty and staff. In conjunction with the 10 main campuses, we also have 160 academic disciplinary areas, 800 degree majors, and over 2 million living alumni spreading around the world, and many of them coming from Korea. We're very proud of our Korean alumni accomplishments. And we have 64 Nobel laureates joining our faculty, teaching on our campus. And this is very much research emphasized. So we're also operating 5 medical centers, along with many other national laboratories and centers in different campuses. So the UC system proudly present many undergraduate majors, as I mentioned earlier. We have 800 degree programs, and we have 9 campuses offering them on the map. The one campus is not showing here is the UC San Francisco, which is essentially a medical school. And the 9 campuses use one application system, and it's the link you see below, admissions.universitycalifornia.edu/apply-now.html. And that is the centralized link for your benefit. You just fill out one application, submit one set of materials, and all 9 of us would get it. So this is really convenient, really easy for international applicants to think about. You see all 9 campuses all together at once. Next, please. So a little bit about our application timeline. So the UC system has a very unique timeline, very different from the other universities that you are considering in the United States. We're not on the common application. We have our own UC application. So make sure you pay more close attention to it. We do give a lot of time to students to prepare in advance. As you can see, the application has already opened on August 1st in terms of filling out the application, filling out your information, and preparing your essays. However, you would not be able to submit your application till November 1st. So we have a window of 30 days in November where you can submit your application. And that is typically the only time you can submit your UC undergraduate application to us. 30 days, make sure you set a reminder, make sure you submit it on time. And then we do have late acceptance, depends on each campus. Some campuses have even a later date in terms of accepting the TOEFL scores or IELTS scores or other test scores that you may have. But generally, December 12th is when we accept all the late scores. So when you're applying submitting your application, you may not have a TOEFL score, but you may have a TOEFL date that you plan to take the test. So don't panic if you don't have the score yet. You can always submit it later. And then we're following the other deadlines, as you can see on this table, the chart. Most test scores can be submitted much later than the application. And due to the pandemic, each campus is also taking variable dates to accommodate our international applicants, understanding some tests are being canceled or being delayed. We are also doing the best we can to accommodate your needs and your differences. By May, usually between March and February and March, we would be able to notifying you whether you have been admitted or not. So please pay close attention. Each campus will send you individual admission decisions and notifications by email. And so you will get that through the email from each campus. And then by May 1st, we will need a response back from you. We call it SIR, is a statement of intent to register. And we would hope you can choose one of us by that time. And we would be able to move you further along the line in terms of enrolling into classes, orientation, and many other important things. And issue I-20, for example, for visa processing. And so some campuses have a wait list, and that's typically between May to June. And that's when we started giving out the notification for wait list. Thank you. Next. So many of you may be having a concern with English proficiency requirements. So we summarized all different kind of requirements in terms of language proficiency, where UC have a general cutoff for most of this standardized test or equivalent standardized test or equivalent diploma programs English level. So in short, we do accept TOEFL, we do accept IELTS, and we started to accept Duolingo this year. And only for this year, we started to accept Duolingo, again, in consideration of the pandemic. So TOEFL, the IBD test, as you can see, the score is pretty standard and pretty easy to access. It's 80. So we think that's usually where most international students are considering, because if you do the equivalency, IELTS 6.5 sometimes is considered a little bit higher than TOEFL 80. So TOEFL is strongly encouraged, but some students may consider taking IELTS, also for British system. So that's 6.5 minimum. And you do have individual subject test requirements. I think no less than 6. So make sure you pay attention to the details as well. Then Duolingo, as I mentioned, the minimum is 115 this year. So if you couldn't take TOEFL IELTS in person this year due to pandemic, Duolingo is another choice for you. And in conjunction with the 3 standardized tests, we also accept other tests like ACT, SAT, AP, and if you're in an IB program, we're also accepting low level and high level, standard level and high level English scores as equivalency to the language requirement. Just pay attention to the minimum score required for those subjects. And next, I will pass on to my colleague at UC Santa Cruz to talk more about tips and recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, June. Hello and good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Koshin. I am a regional admissions representative, and I help mainly domestic and international students that live on the East Coast in the US. And I'm really excited to be here with you today. Thank you to Tuesday Talks for having me. We're going to go over first some tips and recommendations, things that you should keep in mind when you're filling out the application. So before you get to the application stage, one of the biggest recommendations I have is for you to research all of the campuses. So with 9 options for undergraduate study, each of the UC campuses are a little bit unique, a little bit different, have a different feel and atmosphere, and of course would be different for you in your life studying as a student. So make sure you take the time to learn a bit more about each of the UC campuses before you're submitting your application. Also note that some campuses have a major that you might be looking for. They're all a little bit different with a variety of what we offer per each individual campus. When you get to the application phase and you're starting your UC app, you want to make sure that you have all of your academic records and extracurricular activities on hand. So as you're filling out your coursework, as you're filling out your test scores, as you're filling out your activities, it can generally be helpful to make sure that you've gathered all of that information before. So get all of your papers and transcripts together so that you can just easily and simply refer from one and then enter it in directly on the application. I want to recommend that you use the activities and awards and the additional comments thoughtfully. So when you are letting us know about activities that you may be involved in, please make sure that you share with us in detail the type of organizations and the type of roles that you held within these organizations. We're not always able to guess simply by your title or the organization that you're sharing with us. So please make sure that you include some details so that we have a really clear picture of exactly what you are up to. You're going to use the external exams section for any IB or IGETC exams. Another tip is to simply check over all of your information carefully. Because when you complete the UC application, your information is 100% self-provided. So you're providing all of your coursework, all of your scores, and all of your activities on your own. We want to make sure that you take the time to review that information carefully. You want to make sure that, especially when you're entering your coursework and the marks that you've earned, that these are all 100% accurate to your transcript, that you make sure that each one matches so that it doesn't look like there are any discrepancies or any falsifications on your record when we're reviewing. And finally, do not translate your academic course titles or marks. We all have international specialists within our application review processes that are familiar and comfortable reviewing your transcripts. So please do not translate your academic course titles or the marks that you have earned.
All right. Thank you so much, Sarah, for giving some wonderful tips on how to fill out the UC application. My name is Christina Sandoval-Paquette. I'm an admissions officer here at UC San Diego, and I'm also an international specialist. And I also have the pleasure of reading the majority of the Korean applications as well. So there are a team of us that do that, and I'm one of those people, and I really enjoy reading your app. So I want to thank you again for spending your evening with us and for allowing me to spend my early morning with you guys. But I want to say thank you so much for being here. And I really hope we can provide some insight. And one of those things is going to be about the personal insight questions, or the PIQs. I do want to point out that sometimes we do just talk about these as just the PIQs. So if you ever see or hear us just say PIQs, know this is what we mean. We mean the personal insight questions. This is also one of the parts of the application that a lot of students stress about, because you're not really sure about why you have to answer these questions, how we utilize them in the application process, and what role does it play in your admissions. And so I hope I could provide some insight as to what they are and how we use them. So let's start off with some basics. The personal insight questions are just questions. So there are 8 different questions that you get to choose from, and you do have to answer 4 of them. Out of those 4, there is a maximum of 350 words. And sometimes when students see that, they think 350 words times 4, that's a lot of words. But trust me, that time will go by really quickly. Also, you do not need to utilize all 350 words. We're going to go over an example where we get to see 2 different personal insight questions, one that maybe needs a little more improvement and one that's actually a really good example. And you'll see that the word is pretty much the same, like how many words those students are utilizing. So, 350 words, you'll get to that pretty quickly, just putting that out there. One of the other questions that we get often is, what is the best personal insight question to pick? Or which one do you guys look at more favorably? And the answer to that is none. They're all equal. Now, does that mean that they're all equal for all students? No. There are going to be some questions that are better for you to answer than others. So make sure you're reading through all the questions and pick the ones that you feel you can speak about the most. One of the useful tips that students do is they'll look at the questions, they'll look at their activities, and they'll look, okay, which ones do I feel fit me the best? And then answer those ones as well. While you're answering the questions, it's absolutely important that you give us specific, concrete examples. So for example, let's take one of the questions. There's a question in the personal insight questions that talks about, what does leadership mean to you? And so when you're talking about a question like leadership, which is by far one of the most popular questions to answer, make sure that you're giving specific examples of what it means to be a leader, how you are a leader, or maybe how you're an effective leader. And this is something that I do with my students. I ask them to really briefly in a sentence, write what the main point of the question is, right? So you have your main idea first. Say, I am a leader. That's, one thing that you want to say. And then give me 3 examples of how you're a leader. How are you going to show me that you're a leader? So that's one thing that you can do. Write one sentence about what you want to say, and then give me 3 supporting facts as to how you are going to answer that question. Another thing that you're going to want to do is proofread, edit, and get feedback. So make sure that you're reading through your personal insight questions before you submit your application. Make sure that you're editing it so it sounds smooth, there are no grammatical errors, and that we can actually understand what you're trying to say. And then also get feedback, get a friend, have that person read your responses and see if you are making sense. Sometimes students spend a lot of time writing these beautiful responses, but the meaning or the main point that they're trying to get across gets lost. So make sure that you're getting some feedback from somebody to kind of give you an idea as to, am I getting my point across? Is the person who's reading these answers, people like me, actually going to be able to understand what I'm trying to say? Another thing you might want to do is make sure you're not giving us make sure you're giving us new information, not repeating old information. Make sure that as you're answering these questions, you're not telling me something I already know. So I already know that you took a rigorous course load. I already know what your SAT scores are going to look like or what your TOEFL scores are going to look like. I might already know what some of your activities are. So don't tell me any of that extra information. The personal insight questions are there for you to give me extra information. Let's take that leadership example as an example. Say in your activities awards, you said that you were the president of the STEM club for women. That's great. Now tell me more about that. Maybe something you didn't tell me in the activity awards is that you started that club. and you started it because you felt there was a need for it on your campus. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want to hear. A, you're giving me a concrete example of how you're a leader, and B, you're telling me what you did about it. So these are the kinds of things that we really want to read about in your personal insight questions, more about who you are as a student and what makes you you. Another thing to keep in mind is that this is not a creative writing example. So we want you to be creative, but make sure that your point is getting across and it's not getting lost. Oftentimes I read personal insight questions where students describe something for far too long than they need to. It was a sunny day on a Sunday, it was dewy outside and the humidity was high. Unless those things have to do, unless your leadership abilities were enhanced by the fact that it was a Sunday morning and it was dewy outside and the humidity was high, I don't really need to know that information. Make sure that you're being direct and you're giving me concrete examples. The UC application also doesn't allow for you to submit letters of recommendation. So this is your way to recommend yourself to us. Also, think about the personal insight questions as an interview with an admissions officer. Pretend that you're talking to me. That's exactly actually what you're doing. You're talking directly to me. A great exercise that I do with my students is I do an interview with them. I give them a question that they want to answer, and then I give them 3 minutes to tell me exactly how they're going to respond to it. So I say, okay, you're going to choose this question about leadership. Great. You have 3 minutes to tell me why. Why are you a leader? How are you a leader? And so that's a great technique that you can use to try to find what are my main points, what are my supporting factors, and how can I tell this to the admissions officer in a direct way. And the last but not least, the additional comments. The additional comments section is there for you to provide more information to us, but it's not an additional PIQ, and don't use it as a way to continue on with an answer in the personal insight questions. This is really where you want to tell us something that you want to explain, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a PIQ. A great example is, say you had some family struggles or something happened that prevented you from maybe being involved as much as you want to be. That's a great usage of that personal insight, of the additional comments. Doesn't need to be a personal insight question, but it's great for us to know. So when reviewing your application, we have really good insight as to what you're doing. Okay, next slide. All right, so here are 2 personal insight questions. I'm not going to read the questions because that would take quite a bit of time, but here is one where the student had a missed opportunity and one where there was value added. As you can tell, both of these are about leadership, which is, like I said, probably one of the most popular questions for students to answer. But in the one about the missed opportunity, the student really was very broad in their statement, right? They say, everything I thought could go wrong went wrong. Being a leader wasn't as easy as it sounded. That's great. But the student didn't elaborate, didn't add actual concrete examples of what that meant. They didn't really say, why did things go wrong? What did you actually do about it? Did you find a solution? They didn't really go into what it means to be a leader to them. So these are areas where there are missed opportunities. They really set up a lot of contextual language, but not really addressing the question. And that's a really big mistake that a lot of students do, is they try to answer the question, but they don't really answer the question. They don't really tell me what we're trying to know or what we're actually asking. They spend too much time telling me all about everything that's going on around them, but not what they actually did to find a solution. The other one is where we can see the highlighted parts where there is value added. So if you read the very first sentence, it says, I became part of an initiative to formulate a project that would help students who found themselves in a state of insecurity. Great. And then they gave me 3 concrete examples of what they did, right? I met with representatives. Awesome. I drafted a resolution. It's showing me the student is proactive. They didn't just allow for something to happen. And lastly, I moved to propose the resolution. They resolved it in this way. So it's very apparent that the student utilized one of the techniques that I always teach my students, which is start off with your main idea, then give me 3 examples and then elaborate on those. And also just want to let you know that if you wanted some more tips or some more strategies that you can use to fill out the personal insight questions, you can go to the PIQ worksheet, which is part of the University of California. The link is right there. Hopefully maybe we could put it in the chat so you guys can click on it, because I know you can't click on this presentation, but it's a wonderful worksheet to help you really navigate how to answer the questions. And I think the worksheet does a great job of telling you exactly what we're trying to ask and what we're trying to learn about you in the personal insight questions. And that's all I want to say. And I'm going to move it on to my next colleague from UC Davis.
Hi, everyone. My name is San Lee. I work for UC Davis. I got my undergrad degree from UC Davis. I'm an Aggie. I graduated with a major in communication and minor in leadership. So that was my focus. And I've been working for UC Davis undergraduate admissions for the last 9 years. And I'm also an international specialist who is specializing in East Asia. So very happy to be here. Thank you, InitialView, for having us. It's great to see my colleagues and share the workload to talk about the UC system as a whole. So I'm very happy to be here today. So a little bit update on the testing front. I know a lot of students are a little nervous about our testing changes and things that have been changes drastically the last few months. But we're here to tell you that these changes are something that we all are well aware of, and we want you to be aware of. So first, of course, you might have already heard of, we are going to be test optional for international students for this cycle and the next coming cycle. And we will have more updates on in the future for our students outside of California, hopefully in a couple of years. So we're still identifying if there's going to be a new test or if UC is going to be creating a test, and we don't know the answer yet. And I'm sure when that happens, you all students, counselors will be finding out all over the news and social media as our change has been made this year as well. One thing we want you to be aware of when we say test optional, we really mean that it's an option for you, whether or not you decide to take the test. So it's not going to, you're not going to be in disadvantage if you didn't take the test. And if you take the test, it's going to be added value to your application. So like we said, test optional really mean test optional. So don't be too nervous about it. If you have access to it, great. If you don't, it's perfectly fine. It's not going to hurt your application. We also no longer require SAT essay or ACT writing, which is one of the bigger change that we were expecting, and then we became test optional this year. So that if you are taking SAT or ACT, you do not have to worry about the SAT or ACT writing. As well as for classes, since we have the pandemic due to COVID, we have been allowing pass or no pass credit grades for all the impacted terms, meaning for some of you, you might have taken online classes in spring or this summer, or maybe possibly this fall. If grading system are going to be pass or no pass, as long as your school is allowing that, the UC system will look into that and will work with it. Because like my colleagues, Christina and both Sarah were saying, report everything as they are. And the UC is a very self-advocating application process. So if you don't tell us this is what your school is allowing, I would definitely encourage you to add in the additional comment if there's anything that you think we should be aware of, because we are also well aware of a lot of schools in this region have reopened and closed schools again. So there's a lot of back and forth going on. So if there's any changes, please feel free to let us know. Everything, like June was saying, the application opens now. So if you are a senior, work on your application, tell us everything you can. We don't take letter recommendation. We also encourage students to apply to us directly, meaning we do not encourage students to use agents or any third party or for-profit organization to help you to apply. So everything you work on, we believe that the more you're able to research and also work on your application, that you're going to be more successful when you come to one of our campuses, because you cannot go wrong. Any of the UCs were good schools. So I would definitely encourage you to consider a system, do your research and research of each of us. And we have the same set of requirements. So you can decide which one you want to decide on. And then these changes, don't be too nervous about it, because it happens to everyone. It applies to everyone, not just our international students. It also applies to our domestic students in California and also outside of California. So this is change for everyone. And I'm going to pass it on to my colleague, Sarah, to talk a little bit about, the comprehensive review, what we're actually looking at for all the whole application process.
Thank you, San. So in addition to test scores, which again are optional this year, so if you submit them, there are a number of different factors that each individual UC campus is going to consider when an applicant decides to apply. So again, as June mentioned, one application for all of our campuses. Don't forget, you can apply to 1, 2, or all of the campuses, but we all have a comprehensive review process. And what that means is that we're looking at these identified 14 factors that are faculty approved to ensure that we are selecting students that are not only successful, but have the potential to be successful at one of our individual campuses. What you should know is that while each campus uses these 14 factors, we each use them a little bit differently. So if you head over to the University of California website, you can learn a bit more about how individual campuses utilize and consider these 14 factors. But let's go through some of them so that you can get a sense for what they are. You'll note our grade point average. We're going to consider what types of courses you were taking in your high school and how well you did in them, test scores if they're available, performance in and number of courses beyond the minimum A through G requirements. And if you are familiar with the UCs, you may know that A through Gs are basically coursework that we want you to have achieved by the time that you apply. You can learn more about that on our website. And then our UC approved honors courses and advanced courses. So again, a little bit academic. You'll note that the next factors, quality of your senior year program of study, academic opportunities in California high schools, the performances that you have in one or more academic subject areas, achievements in special projects, improvement in academic performance, participation in educational prep programs, and then special talents, achievements, awards, any academic accomplishments in light of specific life experiences and geographic location are all taken into consideration as well. So with these 14 different factors, it's very important for you to remember that there isn't a magic scenario or a magic equation for being admitted to any of the UC campuses. We evaluate each individual student within the context of their own experience in their own school, and we are reviewing them in a comprehensive way so that we're looking at not only your academic ability, but the things that you do outside of the classroom and the things that make you an individual and how you would best contribute to each of our UC campuses. I'm going to turn it back to San to talk a little bit about UC Davis.
Thank you, Sarah. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to go over each campus and talk a little more about a respective campus, because we want you to make sure to understand that what you sign up for, because it's very easy when you go on the application, since you're working on it, it's just to check all the boxes, right? For all the UCs, but that's not what we want you to do. We want you to make sure that you know what you're looking for and the campus that you're applying to have what more necessary to make you successful. So we want to make sure that you know the environment, the community and such. So it's very important that you do research on each of us. And we're going to highlight a little bit of what our campus can offer as a whole. So I'm going to talk a bit about UC Davis. Of course, I'm biased that I would say UC Davis is the best university in the world. I'm not only saying that it's the best in the UCs because that's where I went. And if you were to ask me what's the best major at UC Davis, I would say communication, because that was my major. In theory, I feel like that would be something that if you are going to a university, that should be your attitude. That should be your #1 school. So I'm not going to focus in our rankings and numbers, because I believe that many of you are more familiar with rankings than some of us do. So I'm going to focus in our student life and also on environment. UC Davis, we located in Northern California, as you can see from the map in the beginning. We are about an hour and a half away from San Francisco. We're about 20 minutes away from the state capital, Sacramento. So we're college town. When we say college town, meaning there's a bit a little more about more than 70,000 people lives in Davis. More than half of them are students. So we are a college town, meaning we have a lot of students. Everyone you interact with would have a relationship or connections or teach or work for the university if you are roaming around town. So we're also the only college town within the UC system. So I would say each UC, we have a personality. And if you were to ask me what UC Davis personality is, I would say friendly, because we're a college town. So a lot of times when you look at people, see people, they'll start talking to you and such. I was very surprised when I first went to Davis because that's not all my experience in living in California. But I would say I was quite surprised because people just randomly start talking to you. When I first visited campus, I was asked, a few times if I needed help because I missed a campus tour, and I got a campus map in my hand, and I was trying to figure out directions. And there are different people on their bikes. They stopped and they decided to talk to me and ask if I needed help. And bikes, yes. So bike is actually one of our main form of transportation at UC Davis. So with that said, I want to say that we have a very close-knit community with over 800 student organizations. We also have a Korean student organization. It's called Korean Aggie Unite. They have a Facebook group. If you want to join it, just take a look at what's happening and such. There's a lot of activities for students. Bring cultures and everything together. We also have 2 Korean churches in our city of Davis. So if you're interested in participating in those activities, like what Sarah was saying, we have a lot of things to offer as campuses. And also when we look at your application, we wanted to see that you will be able to excel in our campus community as well. So we want to look for your academics because all of the UCs, we have really good quality of education. So we want to make sure that you're successful on our campus. Not only that you're able to get in, we want you to make sure that you're able to graduate as well. So we ask for your academics on the application. With the 800 student clubs, we also want you to be active during high school because whatever you're doing in high school, we want you to bring that to our community. With a community like Davis, we definitely have a lot to offer with different clubs. We have a student government that has a $14.5 million US budget for students to actually help our city to plan different events and things like that. Our student government actually also run our bus system, which you can see there's a double-decker bus in the middle of the slide. There's actually our actual bus that actually runs. All the buses are actually driven by students. So I don't know how they pass that, but all our buses in Davis are driven by students. It's actually a student job. So if you have always wanted to drive a bus or a double-decker bus, Davis is a place to be. We definitely have a lot of different student opportunities for you to work on campus too if you want to. We have an internship and career center that places about 10,000 jobs and internship every year. So companies like Apple, Facebook, Amazon, everyone you name it from the Bay Area or Disneyland, they would come to recruit our students to work for them. We also have internship and career fair every quarter for students to participate if you're looking for jobs and internship and research opportunities and such. We also have, when you're looking into applying, we also have a Provost Award, which is a scholarship for international students if you're looking for a merit-based scholarship. Definitely scholarships are very competitive within the public school system because we're very limited in those. But if you have really, really, really good grades and all that. So we talk a little bit about being test optional. SAT, ACT is not being considered with the application itself. But if you're looking for scholarship, sometimes SAT or ACT might be considered in terms of a merit-based scholarship. So something to be aware of. I'd say that all the UCs were really strong in STEM, but if you're looking at Davis, our most popular majors will be, psychology, managerial economics. You will see a lot of social science in it. And also we always tell students that research is not only limiting to students who are doing doing hard science. You can be a history major, psychology major, political science major, and still be involved in research. So all in all, I would say that we are definitely a really friendly college community campus. And I say that we do have really good food because we do have to feed our students. And we look forward that once the pandemic is over to welcome back our students, everyone back to our campus and be a vibrant college town. But it would probably take a while for us to get back to that. But I'm definitely looking forward to that. All right, that's a little bit about Davis.
Thank you, Sam. That's a fantastic introduction to UC Davis. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background about UC Riverside, which is also my alma mater and my home school. I graduated from UC Riverside. As you can tell, all of us from UC have a great passion about our on-campus, and we all think we're the best for many reasons. Right, so each campus has its own uniqueness, and we're all wonderful, wonderful institutions. It doesn't matter which one you choose, you won't be in the wrong place because each UC bring you the uniqueness in terms of caring, where we want to know your name, we want to know where you're from, and we want to know how to prepare you for your career path. Each campus also has a uniqueness in terms of high quality of education. We all share the same curriculum, we all share the same standard of education, and we all want to make sure that we deliver the best quality education along with the research to each of you. So that's where UC Riverside comes in, and we were the 8th campus in the UC system. We are located in the Inland Empire area of Southern California, which is the suburban area of Los Angeles. You may have heard about Los Angeles over and over, the entertainment capital of the world, we think. Little bit different from Gangnam or from, the Korean pop style. We are very much into the suburban culture in the Southern California. We have very diverse community. We have a lot of Korean, Asian community population live around here. And we are very adaptive to different cultures, different people from different background. We are actually rated #1 in the United States for that kind of friendliness, diversity, and also the fastest growing campus in the United States. And faster growing in many ways. So one is in ranking. We rose many places, like 39 places in US News World Report in 1 year, which is unheard of. We're very, very much in a growing mode, but also in size. Our campus right now is like a construction zone. So many buildings, apartment buildings, research buildings, many things are brand new on campus. New cafeterias, new dormitories, and new office and new classrooms for you. So by the time you come to campus next year, it will be a brand new facility, brand new campus for you. And also new in terms growing in terms of student and faculty population. So right now we have roughly around 25,000 students and about 1,500 faculty on campus. So you come to a very large public research university campus, but you still get that small feeling in terms of the faculty to student ratio, where our faculty really want to get to know who you are and how can we be able to help you. And helping you is through many ways. So for example, we are ranked number 34 in the country for best undergraduate teaching. And that is actually tied with Harvard and UC Berkeley in terms of how we are dedicated as a research university, but also into undergraduate teaching. And we want to make sure our undergraduates very successful. And in terms of return on investment, we rank number 12 by Money Magazine and CNBC and Forbes magazine, and whichever magazine you can imagine. And we are ranked for that purpose for a reason, because our job placement rate is extremely high. Over 90% of our students get jobs before they graduate, or they go to their dream graduate school before they graduate. So this is something we're very, very proud of. And we have not only the highest job placement rate in California, but also we are very much dedicated into providing students internship opportunities, co-op opportunities, and undergraduate research opportunities. We have many, many on-campus jobs, and we share those opportunities with our international students. We have a dedicated career counseling group just for international students, and we want to make sure our international students get their first job in the United States through our help, through our network, with our alumni, and with our counselors. So that is something unique about UC Riverside, is we want to make sure our students get their money back, get to achieve their dream, and have a lot of fun on campus. We have over 450 student organizations. Just like UC Davis, we also have a very strong Korean community over here. We have many, many Korean research centers on campus, including the Materials Research Center with Korean Institute of Materials and also Korean Culture Research Center on campus. It's actually called the Korea Center on campus. And we're very strong in that. And our actually number 2 largest international student population is from Korea. And our number 1 destination for studying abroad is Korea, actually. So majority of our students studying abroad through UC EAP or others actually go to Korea. Our number 1 second language class is actually Korean. So Korean population and culture is dominating over here. Sometimes I feel like I'm hearing Korean speaking more than any other language on campus, which is very, very interesting. So you come to UC Riverside, it won't go wrong. And last but not least, we offer non-resident achievement scholarship, just like many other UC campuses. This is merit-based. So if you have a minimum qualification, we will give you $4,500 per quarter, and that's renewable throughout your academic career at UC Riverside. So we very much strongly encourage you to do that. And last is we're the birthplace of Naval Orange. So remember us and you get free orange on campus when you come to visit us. Thank you. Next, I will pass it on to my colleague at UC Davis, Christina.
Hi, okay, thank you so much. My name is Christina, I'm from UC San Diego. I'm also a UC alumni. I am not an alumni of UC San Diego, though. I'm actually an alumni of UC Santa Cruz. I chose Santa Cruz over San Diego simply because I was born and raised in San Diego and I wanted to go far away from home. Also, they've got some top rankings too. So I was really familiar with the rankings of each campus when I was applying. Just as many of you are, you're researching the campuses, you're trying to figure it out. But one of the things that we really want to point out as you're looking at the campuses is to look to see, is this the right fit for you? And is this the right major for you as well? So at UC San Diego, we do offer, right now it's 130, but we actually now have over 140 individual majors for you to choose from. So it's a very diverse when it comes to majors on our campus. Of course, when students think about UC San Diego, the first thing they think about is our School of Engineering, our STEM majors, the School of Medicine. They think about so many of our STEM related departments. But UC San Diego also has a top ranking theater and art program as well. So if you're somebody who is interested in theater, art, think about UC San Diego, especially dance. We have one of the top ranked dance programs as well. So if you are interested in those, please look into UC San Diego. Don't just think of us as a STEM major. And even if you are thinking about a STEM major, you'd be surprised how many of our STEM students will actually add a double major or a minor in the arts and humanities. So a lot of my engineering students who I used to advise, a lot of them did music or dance as a minor, and I always found that really interesting. But engineering is a very creative field, and there's so many different ways to show off your creativity. One of the ways that we really invest in the arts at UC San Diego is by hosting the Stewart Art Collection. So as you're walking around campus, you're going to find quite a few art pieces. One of them is actually here. It's our sun god. It's said to be good luck. So a lot of students, what they'll do is right before finals, they'll go to the sun god, they'll walk backwards into the sun god statue so you can walk like almost underneath and between the legs. And it's said to bring you good luck and good grades when you take your finals. Of course, I always tell students, it's best to study and actually go to class. The sun god can only help you so much. The other thing that we do with sun god has definitely been an extremely integral part of our campus. And we actually named a music festival after sun god. So if you guys are familiar with, say, Coachella, which is a music festival that we have here in California, in the Coachella Valley, we actually have something very similar to that for our UC San Diego students on our campus, and it's called the Sun God. It's called the Sun God Festival. So there are tons of artists that come out, big name artists like Drake, Chance the Rapper. We have a large Korean population, and I've been kind of nudging them to get some K-pop acts to come over because K-pop's really popular in San Diego. So hopefully that will work out next year. I'm voting for a couple of them. We'll see. I'm trying to put in my word. Another art collection that I do want to point out is actually the one behind me. So if you look at that little house, that is actually done by one of our Korean artists. that we hired to build an art piece for our campus. And this is our computer science building. He was not a computer scientist. He was like art major or art master student. And he made this to represent what it feels like to be an international student being dropped into an American school. And so if you look at it, it's kind of on the edge, it's a little bit kind of crooked. It looks like it might fall down, but I promise it's very secure on there. And if you go up there, you'll be able to see beautiful lush gardens. You go inside, it's an actual home that you can walk into. And so it's a beautiful representation of what it feels like to be an outsider making a home in a new place. Another thing, you can read all our statistics. You can read everything that we have on our slide. You can also go on our YouTube page, UC San Diego Admissions, and you can go through and see some student testimonials. You can read more, learn more about our admissions process and learn more about specific departments. But things that we haven't talked about just yet in those presentations has been the San Diego community. We understand that when you come to our campus, you're not just part of the UC San Diego community, but you're also part of the San Diego community at large. So I reached out to one of my Korean students and I asked, what is one thing you would like our Korean students to know more about as they're looking to apply to UC San Diego? And before I could even finish the sentence, she said food. She said San Diego has a lot of food to offer, a large diversity of food, places to eat at. She did mention that one thing that she found really surprising is that we do have Korean stores that are popular in Korea here in San Diego. She mentioned the face shop. She's like, if you just mentioned the face shop, don't know what I mean. Paris Baguette was the other one she mentioned. So she said that she felt whenever she misses home, she can always go to those places and feel a little bit closer to home. We also have a lot of Korean markets around in San Diego County. And she said, one of the things that she really missed was Korean barbecue. It's something that is just a comfort food for her. And she went to a Korean barbecue restaurant. She's like, it was okay, but it wasn't like how I remember at home, but it wasn't hard to replicate. We replicate it because you have so many stores that you can go to and just buy a lot of the ingredients and just do it yourself. And it's also a great way to make friends. She's like, I brought a bunch of people over to my house. We had some Korean barbecue, and it was a great way for me to share my culture, share my food with my fellow students, and also to meet new people and make deeper connections. So those are just some of the things that she really wanted us to stress to you. But there's so many reasons to choose UC San Diego. The last thing that I want to mention is the college system. And I know that UC Santa Cruz also has the college system. The biggest difference when you're applying is that when you're applying to San Diego, you're going to have to rank the colleges at the time of application. So there are 7 colleges for you to choose from. Each one of them has different general ed requirements. There is no right college, better college. There is no one college for one major. They are all just a little bit different. So make sure that when you're researching UC San Diego, you take time to research the college system. We have a wonderful YouTube video describing the college system, what each theme is, and why students chose specific colleges when they apply. And that's all I want to say about UC San Diego. I'm going to pass it on to my colleague from UC Santa Cruz.
Thank you, Christina. And I wish you would have talked about Santa Cruz the whole time. I didn't know you weren't alone. So great. Awesome. So I know I'm on a bit of a time crunch. I'm going to cover UC Santa Cruz a bit quickly, but know that you can always reach out to me, reach out to my colleagues and ask any questions that you might have. So first we'll start with location. We are actually the closest UC to Silicon Valley. So we're about an hour and a half south of San Francisco, about 45 minutes outside of San Jose or Silicon Valley. We boast over 300 days of sunshine a year, which really allows our students to be incredibly active. The photo that you see as a background in the template for our slide showcases not only the redwood forests that make up the majority of our campus, but also the beautiful coast. So we do have a portion of our campus that is coastal and really services our marine biology students and researchers, but we have beautiful views of the Monterey Bay. It's almost shaped like a C, so from some parts on campus, you get a really beautiful look at the Monterey Bay. A couple things that I want to mention in addition to location that are a little bit unique is that UC Santa Cruz boasts a great global reputation. So we have been ranked 15th in global research impact. We have some highly ranked programs in film as well as physics, and we'll transition quickly to academics. Lots of different options for you to study on campus, which actually harkens back to our founding story. I'll truncate it a little bit for you, but essentially on the founding of UC Santa Cruz in 1965, the chancellor that came from Berkeley wanted to create a new UC that was unlike UCLA or UC Berkeley, but really followed the trends of Oxford and Cambridge and other European liberal arts schools. So at UC Santa Cruz, you get all of the benefits of being a part of a big major top tier research institution with some of the more intimate touch points of a liberal arts college. So in our liberal arts kind of feel that Christina mentioned, we do have a college model, which are essentially living and learning communities, which means the buildings or the neighborhoods that you live in each have their own unique feel, and it kind of combines academics and your living arrangements, social and cultural engagements. So the idea is that students from different realms of campus and different majors are all contributing their unique perspectives to bring about more innovative and creative ways to approach their research. So as I mentioned, a whole lot of different options for you to study in terms of majors. You'll see our top majors, maybe unsurprisingly, include computer science because we are so close to Silicon Valley, but also include physics, business management, economics, marine biology, and as I mentioned, film and digital media are extremely popular on campus. We do boast 75% of our students participating in some form of research, and the breakdown of our campus helps to contribute to the ability and the opportunity for undergraduate students. We're at about 17,500 undergraduate students as opposed to about 2,000 graduate students. So if you know a little bit about how research funding breaks down, it typically is awarded to faculty members and professors first, then graduate students, then undergraduate students. And because the majority of our campus is undergraduate students, that means a whole lot of opportunities for you to get involved in research very, very early in your undergraduate career. The last thing I will mention is that we do offer an Undergraduate Dean's Award for international students. All you need to do to be considered is to simply apply. We'll consider based on merit and make those awards accordingly. I want to mention on our next slide a bit about the ways that you can connect with us virtually. We know that this year is a bit different as you consider all of your options for college. At these respective links, what you'll find are virtual visit opportunities that range from campus visits to information sessions to opportunities for you to connect with current students. So please, I encourage each of you to head over to each of these links to learn a little bit more about the ways that you can engage with us. We know it's going to be a little bit different this year, but we've all put together some incredibly unique and informative opportunities for you to make sure that you can connect with us and learn a bit more about the UC system.
Thank you so much, everybody. That was amazing. I have learned so much about the UC system. At this time, we want to invite you all to ask your questions. We do have a little bit of time left. So if you have questions, please go ahead and type them up. And I am going to keep this page open for you all so that you have the respective institutions' contact information. So please know that after this time, you can also contact our admissions officers here and ask your questions and continue the conversation. One question that we have is in regards to back to the PIQs and letting yourselves known about just COVID information or how one's life has been impacted either academically or not. So I haven't seen the PIQ questions for this year, but is there a COVID specific PIQ question? And if not, where is the best place to put it? I think in other applications, teachers are expected to write about that in their letter of recommendations and how that was impacted at the school level. But seeing that there's no letter of recommendations, what do you suggest?
That's a great question. And I actually asked that question early on. Will there be a COVID specific PIQ? And the answer was no. But what I have been suggesting students do is there are two other questions. I believe they're questions 4 and 5. They talk about personal and educational barriers. And those are a great opportunity for you to expand a little bit about how COVID has personally impacted you and how it's impacted your education as well. If you're going to be using the personal insight questions to talk about COVID, make sure that you are telling us how it impacted you and what did you do about it, right? So you didn't just let COVID impact you. I know a lot of students were extremely proactive when COVID hit. So let us know about that information. If you wish not to utilize the personal insight questions to talk about COVID, definitely add it in the personal comments and the additional comments. You know, especially if, say, the number of, and I know this happens to our domestic students, this is how it came up. If the number of AP, IB courses that were offered got lowered because of COVID, because they couldn't teach them virtually or something of that nature happened, let us know in the additional comments. Or if there is additional information from your school that they would like us to know, the additional comments is another great place to put it. So yes, you can definitely use the personal insight questions to talk about COVID and its impact. I imagine that a lot of students are going to be utilizing, especially questions 4 and 5, because they talk about personal and educational barriers, to talk a little bit about COVID and the impact. Just don't forget to, if you're going to talk about that again, make sure you give us at least three concrete examples of how it's impacted you. And if you're going to talk about a problem, talk about how you're going to solve or how you did solve that problem.
Great. Okay, so I know that time has come, but there are a few more questions. So I am going to maybe take just a few more extra time to do this. So there's a question about specifically for homeschoolers. What should they consider carefully while preparing for the UC? Do you have any specific tips for those homeschoolers out there?
Okay, I'd say for students who are homeschooling, I think because of COVID, there are going to be more homeschooling students, but traditionally we have also taken students who are homeschooled with students who have taken exams and things like that in order to graduate. So I would say definitely utilize space to talk about, you know, if you went from a traditional school or an international school to homeschool because of whatever reason, COVID, talk about it. Use those space to explain your situation to us, because what we really want to see is that you making the most out of what is available to you. And if homeschool, if your option, is perfectly fine. You can just talk about it, let us know what your situation and as what exams, that things that you, or what curriculum that you're doing and such, then we will work on a case-by-case situation. Like I think like earlier we said that each application are going to be reviewed by evaluators. So I mean, I'm an evaluator too. So when we read your application, we'll be able to look at, you know, your academic history and things like that. And if there's anything that stood out to us, you can explain it. And if you don't explain it, like what Christina was talking about in the PIQs, is a missed opportunity. It could be missed opportunity and elsewhere in the application too if you don't explain it. And also, I always tell students that now that like COVID doesn't only happen in one place, COVID happened to everyone, right? This pandemic. What is your COVID story? Right? You don't want to just tell us that you sit at home, you can't go to school, but how do you make the most out of your time, right? For example, you know, listening to things like this, or you learn a language, or, you know, try to make the most out of it. I think we're all in that together. I think we are all trying to, you know, see the light out of this, but I think what your story is the most important to us, and just make good use of the space to explain your situation to us is the most important.
Thank you. Well, I am mindful of the time and there are a few more questions, but I do want to encourage you with your specific questions to address them here to the websites and also the email addresses that you see here.
Oh, if I can, sorry, John,
yeah,
can I
absolutely.
interrupt? If I can mention one more thing, I know a lot of you are on Instagram. If you're looking at Instagram, I would definitely encourage you to look at all of our Instagram, different schools. We all have Instagram. with our different accounts and things like that. One really cool Instagram account I would like you to check out if you're interested in Davis is our Chancellor. Our Chancellor May, he actually has an Instagram account. He has updates every week. So if you want to learn about what's happening and things like that, definitely follow all the Instagram account of the schools that you're interested in. I think definitely give you more of a live update of how the school student lives, what is online classes or online education look like and things like that. You'll get a better sense of what the real life is looking like on the ground. Thank you,
Yeah,
Tarak.
that's a great plug. Thank you, San. Yeah, so please, I mean, our universities and the ones here have really put a lot of effort into their virtual engagement, given this situation right now. So actually, I think for those of you who are very far from California, this is really an excellent way to engage and to further explore your fit. And we want to wish you the best as you go through this stressful process, but we really do hope that you will enjoy it as well as you do some soul searching and learn more about yourself, which is really, I think, a lifetime process. And we also want to encourage you to check in again with us. We will continuously have Tuesday talks, and there was a question about where, if this this recording especially is available, and it is. It will be available on YouTube. So just go ahead to YouTube and type in InitialView, and you'll be able to find it. And I believe a link will be also provided. So thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you to our panelists, especially for those of you in California, waking up or not sleeping. This is very early during the day, well, during the night for you. So thank you so much. And we wish all of you the best and hope to see you again next Tuesday. 감사합니다. 다음 주에 또 뵙겠습니다. Bye.